Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the new meta has begun, the World of Fantasy meta, of which case from henceforth I will be calling it just the Fantasy meta. So Fantasy Milim, Fantasy Frey, Fantasy whoever the fuck decides to come out after this. But World of Fantasy, I get confused with Font of Wisdom because they both, they end with a W and start with a W. I'm getting confused. So fantasy is what we're going to go with. But are they actually worth it? Are they good units? Well, let's take a look at their kit now that they have come out. If you missed the summons on the live stream, I was incredibly blessed today. Thank God. And got both Milim and Frey in 40 pity, which was tickets. Right? It was there was the ticket packs that I bought, of which I got enough for one ticket multi, and then my Koban coins for the 3, and I got both of them, so we are sitting real good. But Milim, physical unit, which you can't see, but she uses a hammer, because she's smacking that hammer game at carnivals. EX growth type, attack, but her ult is 490% physical damage, so another physical meta. And then she can do an EX ult for 1.5 times, which, is pretty standard for single targets on EXs. First skill, we knew what it was. 30% attack, 25% crit damage that stacks by 3% every time you use a skill. Until turn 4 ends. Just like what Light 2.0 did with Pierce. Xion stacked 3% Pierce power for every skill you use, but that only did 3 turns. So now you have an extra turn to use as many skills as possible. And during the stream, I got her up to like 50-something%, and it's pretty good. Her second skill is a single orb change, which is good because it's a low-cost skill. 1 blue to 1 green, and then gives green damage until the end of battle, 10%, which also stacks. So, this is a burst team. You're not sitting here for 8-10 turns trying to stack up Diablo's stuff and all of your points and everything. This is burst damage, so you probably won't see more than like 20% of green damage. It's really not that important, but that does stack alongside like Light Rimaru's skill, because that also gives damage, but that's a temporary buff. Let's see, Light Rimaru is like 10, another 10%, 5%. 15% green damage, so technically 25% green damage when you use his orb change, and Milim's technically if you already have it active. It's good. It's good for a burst team that's low cost skills that you need to use to stack up her crit damage, because that's going to be the most important factor. And then you combine that with Frey, who we'll get to in a bit, who's giving crits. It's a potent combo, because it runs almost exactly the same as Light 2.0. Right, it's very, very similar with minute differences. Her Valor trait, if you send a 2 combo, it nerfs the enemy's blue damage. Blues are pretty predominant in Valor Cup right now because, we have a 2-2-2 spread meta with 50 skill points, which allows you to change, and most people should be changing to full hands of blues, so this could come in handy for this season. Her actual trait, if you have her over 100, so every turn up to turn 3, you get 7% ult gauge up to 11%. It's kind of like, is it Dark Xion? It's Light Xion, actually. Light Xion gives ult gauge for the first 3 turns. She is essentially Light Xion, except crit, and not Pierce. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Light Xion was very good for a long time. One of my favorite metas was Light 2.0. So that is that. When you get her to 120, she gets an extra 20% ult damage. It's pretty standard. Her EX gets extra crit damage with Gabiru, which I don't have awakened. And then her EX board is a self-buff with physical attack units. So, makes a whole lot of sense. She, on paper, is very good, but you need another unit to give her crits to activate her full potential. Just like Xion needs another unit to give her Pierce to activate her full potential. So they do go hand in hand. If you pull Milim, you don't have Frey, you could use the hero, you could use Fire Milim. Those 2 units give crit. and that's what you're going to need. If you don't have them, Frey could be a pretty solid option for you to get, because Frey, moving over here, increases damage done by Fantasy Force characters by 60% to fire units, so that's the whole shtick there. And then 10 Great Demon Lords and World of Fantasy Force characters attack and defense plus 20%. So, Fantasy, 10 Great Demon Lords. Who was on 10 Great Demon Lords? We should have the filter effect now, right? Hold on. Or not. No, here we go. Nope. Okay. Maybe that's coming later. Whatever. we'll skip that. But her skill changes 3 blues and 3 oranges to 6 greens, just like Shizu. Alright? Increases all physical character allies' crit rate by 100%. So here's, instance number 1 where she's specific. Only physical characters. Shizu gave everybody Pierce, regardless of who you were, but that also stacked with your skills, just like it's stacked alongside Shion's Pierce power. So it wasn't always guaranteed Pierce, it was 85, 95% Pierce. This is crit only for physical, which is fine if you should be running a full physical team anyways, which is why I define this as a physical meta. 100% crit rate. So, you put that alongside the new Milim, who's getting 50-something% crit damage on top of her 30% attack, on top of whatever other buffs you want to use. You can do a lot of damage. In my stream earlier today, I did EX2 of the beatdown battle, and I think her EX ult did like 600,000 damage, alongside the EX Rimuru buff and the Dark Milim Anniversary ult buff. I mean, that's a lot of damage for a burst team in 4 turns. 5 turns, technically. That's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. It's not millions, but this is not a stacking team. That's not the focus of this. And then she gives you 40 skill points, just like Toa or Hakuro or Romerus, right? Yeah, Space Romerus. So she gives you points. She doesn't raise your cap at all, so you are permanently capped at 100. But the fact that she gives you 40 means that you have a soft cap of 140, and an even softer cap at 180 if you can manage to get, double protection gauge, which, if you run Isis, it's not really that difficult to do. So she's a good, mostly general use protector. You do need to have physical characters, but, you have someone giving you crits, you're getting skill points, you're 3 and 3 orb changing, which is super powerful. These kinds of skills are very, very effective in most content except where greens are nerfed, of which you just want to use a different protector. I have a charm on her. Her actual trait, Valor trait, is the same as all the other new protectors. It's cut down on single target ult damage you take if they have an ult. And then her actual trait is if you have 75% or more HP, you decrease all targets' crit resistance by 6% at the start of the turn. Which I guess if your team is very tanky, you can probably kill in 3 turns or 4 turns without hitting the 75% cap and have that debuff going still. It is possible. Realistic, I don't really know about that. And then when you get her to 120, she gets extra supports onto her Divine Protection. So she herself is a very solid protector if you're running a physical team. Milim is a very solid character if you're running a unit that can give you crit. They're pretty dependent on certain things, but they can be used on other teams. Like, you could certainly use Frey on the Dark 2.0 team. Yes, they are magic, so no, you're not getting crit. Dark Rimuru is already giving you crit and crit damage, so I mean, not really that important there. And then you have Dark Milim and her ult buff, and that's 110 points, which you have Frey, and you're getting 40. You can use that and then something else, I guess. So, I mean, it can work. It's just you'll benefit more from having physical characters. And then Milim, again, benefits from someone giving her crit, but obviously you don't need to have the protector as long as you have the hero or someone else who is going to give her crit in a different way. And then if that's the case, you could put her on a stacking team for all I care. You could put her on Diablo's team or Light Shuna's team if you run a team that can give both crit and pierce at the same time. You could run Hero and you can run Light Raphael, and you can give, you know, extra crit damage for Milim, and then you can get Pierce Power and Stun Strike from Raphael. Like, we'll test it out. Don't worry. We will. But they are dependent on each other or other units. And also, this meta is really simple for the most part. It's very familiar, I guess is how we'll put that. But I don't think it's necessary. Like, Light 2.0 is still a decent team. No, it doesn't have EX ults. No, it doesn't have quite the same power output as these new metas. But it can still work pretty fine. It's still a green-focused meta, and Shiju is still doing 3 and 3. So it's not, you know, out of the realm of being used in this meta. So you can definitely use that. You could probably use Violet and the Fire 2.0 team. They're physical. I don't see a problem with that either. So there are other teams you could use. Like Fount of Wisdom, we had no stacking physical team. We had 4 stacking magic teams. So really, like, that was a, if you want this team, you kind of need this team, right? This is not the same scenario as last meta. We have green focused teams. We have green focused physical teams. All right, we have a whole bunch of green orb changers. We have Isis and Misery who are green buffers. We know how Toa runs with the 40 skill points, so you just transplant those strategies onto, you know, Frey. It's familiar. You recognize it, and team building is a little bit easier here. But I also still want to caution people that in literally a month from today, or technically yesterday, the 1.5 year anniversary is going to come. And I am 99.99999% sure they will be doing something special for that. Like a triple unit banner with increased rates and a whole bunch of extra content. Things are going to happen. So, because you have replacement teams for this meta, because you have green-focused physical teams, if you have them, I don't think you need to summon on this meta. Will you do as good in Jubilee as other people? No. Duh. The Jubilee is meant for the new units. Sorry. But can you still accomplish, you know, the missions around associated with this team? Probably. So in that case, I urge people to, if they have a physical green team, save. Save for the 1.5 year anniversary. Unless you really, really, really like Milim, like I do, or you really, really, really like Frey, like someone I know does. You know, you don't need to summon on this meta. Save your crystals. Be smart. Focus on, you know, metas that are going to give you the most bang for your buck, and the banners that are most value for your crystals, which is going to be a triple unit banner, which will most likely be the 1.5 year anniversary. So that is my advice. If you have Milim, do you need Frey? No. If you have another unit that can give you crit. If you don't have the hero, if you don't have Fire Milim, you don't have a unit that can give Milim crit, then maybe continue for Frey, especially if you don't have Light 2.0. If you have Frey, do you need Milim? No. No, you don't, because Frey is buffing World of Fantasy units, which Light Xion was added to. Light Xion is still a fantastic damage unit, one that I will probably dupe up after this video. But she's on that, and you know, she needs Pierce. Alright, put Alice on the team. She's on the fantasy team as well. She can give Xion Pierce, and then you're just stacking with that. You're going to give Xion guaranteed crits, which, I mean, cool. She's physical. You're going to get that extra damage on, you know, against fire units. Awesome. She already exists, right? If you have Frey, you don't really need Milim. You don't need her. You might want her, but you don't need her. I think Milim is in more of a situation where you need someone rather than Frey needing someone else. So, that is my advice for people. If you don't have either and you're still on the fence, I would just say skip. And if you really, really like Milim, then you probably already summoned. Or if you really, really like Frey, you already summoned. You don't need this video. And you're just watching it to give me a view, which thank you very much, by the way. But I will test the teams out over the next couple days. And I will figure out what can and cannot be used, what is most useful. I think I still have the team built that I was running earlier in the stream. It is not this team. Never mind. Oh, hold on. It's saved. Eventually. It is this team. Frey, Isis, Rimuru, Milim, Rimuru. That is the team that I'm going to attempt to use for most of my stuff until I determine that maybe Rimuru costs a little too much. We'll see. But that's it for me. If you summoned, let me know how your summons went. I got incredibly blessed. I hope to pass that blessing on to you now. I just need it back for next month, so don't use too much of it. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you later.